And we're continuing our special coverage of election night 2016, November 8th, 2016, 3 minutes after 11 o'clock here in the Central Daylight Time Zone. Excuse me, in the Central Standard Time Zone, I should say. Right now, though, get some more news here in just a moment from Fox Radio. And let's see. I don't think they have an update yet for midnight, but I'll check to be sure. So I'm sure it's being broadcast as we speak. And of course. Yeah, I didn't really want to look. Okay. Let's hit refresh one more time. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my continuous coverage here on this Tuesday night, and that is still not working. All right, let's try NPR. Okay, well, at least the internet has held up through tonight's show so far. I'm pleased with that. I haven't heard of any glitches yet. All right, well, let's see. Okay, well, that's not ready yet. Oh, hold. Here we go. Let's see. Here we go. Podcast directory. Come on, number 5. Come along. Anyway, CNN is still reporting Donald Trump in the lead at 232 electoral votes compared to Hillary Clinton at 209. And what else we got for you? The road to 270. Let's see here. And waiting for that to load. Okay. I need more bandwidth. Anyway, that's okay. Well, that's not ready yet. Okay, so I'm going to have to keep talking here. I'm just going to have to keep talking. All right, whether you want to hear me or not. Let's see here. Presidential election results. And, okay, let's try this page out. Okay, well, now, according to CNN, they're reporting on the state of Wisconsin, and it looks like Trump has a narrow lead there by almost 1 million votes over Clinton. In New Hampshire, looks like Clinton trailing Trump by nearly 5,000 votes even. And just 13 votes difference there. 5,013 votes difference there. In Pennsylvania, looks like Trump has a narrow lead there by 5,500 almost. So again, looks like the nation, at least on the popular vote, is supporting Clinton, or is supporting Trump. And it looks like Donald Trump could be our next president. But Maine has Clinton in the lead by nearly 18,000 votes there. And on the national map, Trump now in the lead at 50 million plus compared to Clinton at 49,700 plus thousand. Back to Arizona, Trump leading that state, 785,000 plus to 727,000 plus for Clinton. So there we go there. And what else we got for you on this Tuesday night? And in Pennsylvania, really close there, with Trump with a narrow lead, just 1/10 of a percentage point, with 90% of the polls reporting in at 2.5 million votes each. Trump has 2.58 million. Clinton has 2.57 million votes in the state of Pennsylvania. So this is an extremely tight race. And I have to admit, on the one hand, I'd like for this thing to be over with and so I can go to bed. But on the other hand, it's really exciting because it's a seesaw battle. And it's getting really, really interesting, to say the least. Okay, well, let's see if I can get some news for you now and find out what's going on. We'll check in with Fox Radio first, because it doesn't look like NPR has new information there. And for some reason, Fox Radio News is not responding like it should. Fox News Radio, come on, folks. Yeah, let's see. Maybe I'll try another source. I'm going to try BBC, possibly. Let's see. See if they have a news source here I could use. Well, that's not working either. Let's try CBS. Looks like all my news sources have conked out. I'm thinking, screw it, let's go to bed. Trump's going to be the winner. We'll ride it up tomorrow. Got a cigarette? Okay, getting a little bit punchy here, as you can tell. I haven't done a 3-hour plus show in quite some time. Well, that's not it. Well, dadgummit. Okay, well, let's see if I got some other audio here that I haven't played yet that still might be of some relevance. Because I'm trying to keep the political bashing down to a minimum. Because that's what I've been doing for the last 3 months on my show. But anyway, it looks like regardless of what anti-Trump people have said, American people have spoken, they want Donald Trump to be next president. So it looks like he's going to be our next president. Okay, how about we try... that's not it either. Okay. How about we go with this one? From the state of Florida earlier today, I don't remember if I played this one, but I want to play it again anyway if I've already played it, in regards to election fraud.
We have some news about some election clerks in Broward County that were fired. What's going on, Boris?
That's right, John. We're just getting this information now, so please bear with me. But it appears that earlier today, 2 election clerks in Broward County, which is north of us, of where we are right now, Miami-Dade County, were fired. They were, quote, not working to the level of integrity that they were trained to. This is from the public information officer for the Broward County Board of Elections, Tanya Edwards. She says that the clerks were not adhering to procedures. She refused to explain exactly what procedures were not being followed correctly. What we know is that those 2 clerks were fired and removed from the premises. The Broward County Sheriff's deputies were requested. They moved those folks along. It appears that voting now in that area is back to normal, and that polling location is fully operational.
Okay, and there we have some evidence of some voter fraud going on in the state of Florida. Well, I have an update from Fox News Radio in just a few seconds on this late Tuesday night. Wednesday morning for some of you. And according to CNN now, it looks like Donald Trump has gained another electoral vote, now leading Hillary Clinton by nearly 29 votes at this point, 238 to 209. So again, it looks like Donald Trump picking up another electoral vote here on this Tuesday evening. And in Missouri, where there are 10 electoral votes, Donald Trump is the clear winner here in the Show Me State with 1,272,943 popular votes, compared to Clinton at 786,580 votes in support of her. Other candidates include Gary Johnson, who picked up 3.4% of the vote, followed by Jill Stein, who got 0.9 of a vote, and Castle picked up 0.5% of the vote. So there you go. Okay, and nearly have the news ready for you now. Okay, swing this back over, and we should have it here in about 5 seconds, more or less. Okay. I think these computers need a little bit of defragging, although this broadcast computer I wouldn't think would need it because it just got reformatted a couple of weeks ago, so it shouldn't have that much junk data in there. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Now we got Fox News Radio. There we are. Whew. I tell you, you don't realize how much of a relief it is to have someone else talk for 5 minutes when you've been talking for 3.5 hours. Anyway, here's Fox Radio News, or Fox News Radio, on this evening edition, part 2 of continuous election coverage.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Tom Graham. Donald Trump supporters sounding increasingly optimistic. Cheering election results so far. The magic number, 270 electoral votes. Fox News projecting Trump has 254 to Hillary Clinton's 209. Fox's Grenal Scott joins us live from an optimistic Trump headquarters in New York.
Tom, on this election night, a lot of nail biting still going on here at the Hilton Midtown. Donald Trump keeps piling up states, and with the recent additions of Wisconsin and Iowa and Georgia to the win column, it has buoyed Trump supporters into believing that this can actually happen tonight. People in the Hilton ballroom are showing their superstitious nature. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say anything that might jinx their desired outcome. There are still electoral vote decisions to be made tonight, but from the looks on people's faces here, people are ready to explode in celebration, Tom.
Grenal just down the street, a more sobering atmosphere. Fox's Tanya J. Powers joins us live at Clinton headquarters.
Yeah, well, the men here at Hillary Clinton said orders have built somewhat. Supporters are standing up and feeling all right, but they're hoping the candidate can turn things around. Some of them look concerned. They're watching large TV screens for results. They're intermittently chanting Hillary, Hillary, and booing when the coverage mentioned Donald Trump. Earlier this evening, Clinton tweeted her thanks to her team and said, quote, "Whatever happens tonight, thank you for everything, Tom."
Tanya, Republican House Speaker Paul Ryan hanging on to his seat in Wisconsin, keeping his fingers crossed for a Trump win at the top of the ticket.
This could be a really good night for America. This could be a good night for us.
Meantime, Democrats unable to pick up enough House seats to pose a serious challenge to GOP control of the lower chamber. Overnight stock futures trending off. Dow futures more than 600. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Wildfires burn millions of acres each year. And each year, wildland firefighters like Fire Chief James Hall battle to contain them. But they can't do it alone.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. It can ignite and destroy your home, your community, or more. That single ember can be just as dangerous as the wildfire itself. But you can do something firefighters can't. You can act now to prepare your home and your community for wildfire. You can reduce the risk. Do your part. Go to fireadapted.org.
Get fire adapted. Learn what you can do now to reduce wildfire damage later at fireadapted.org. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. Learn more at fireadapted.org.
Democrats picking up a seat in the Senate. Illinois Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth defeating incumbent Mark Kirk, suggesting the nation needs to be more inclusive, but saying we do face economic challenges ahead.
With the circus that has been the 2016 election coming to an end, these challenges will still remain.
Elsewhere in Senate races, Republican Marco Rubio keeping his seat in Florida.
The days and weeks to come, I hope that we as a people here in Florida, I hope we will set the example in this great state that while we can disagree on issues, we cannot share a country where people hate each other because of their political affiliations.
Other GOP Senate victories. Fox News projecting North Carolina's Richard Burr will keep his seat. Ohio's Rob Portman and Wisconsin's Ron Johnson also winning elections. The GOP holding the Senate majority by a slim margin going into election night with 54 seats. 2 polling stations closed in Southern California after a deadly shooting.
Officers in Azusa responded to a shots fired call and came across several injured people. When they tried to tend to them, someone opened fire on the cops. Other officers had to respond to help get those officers out of the way. Azusa Police Chief Steve Hunt says 1 person was killed, 2 others were taken to hospitals with injuries. No officers were hurt. He said there was 1 person at the scene lying in the doorway of a house. They didn't immediately know if that person was a suspect or victim.
Right now, for sure, we have 1 female suspect that was armed with an assault rifle that was either a semi-automatic or an automatic rapid-fire type weapon.
2 nearby polling places had to be shut down. People were told to go to other nearby polling locations and cast provisional ballots. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
And recapping our top story, race to the White House, Donald Trump inching closer to the magic number of 270 electoral votes. So far, Fox News projecting Trump has 254 to Hillary Clinton's 209. Last hour, Fox News projecting Trump wins in Iowa and Wisconsin. Donald becoming the first Republican to win Wisconsin since 1984. Tom Graham, Fox News Radio.
And you're listening to a special evening edition of Haff in the Morning, where we'll check in with NPR News here in just a little bit. And Fox was saying that Trump is now, 16 votes away from reaching the magic 270. Meanwhile, Bing.com is reporting that Trump is at 244, whereas Clinton is at 209. So I think the Clinton momentum has come to an end. I really think the Clinton momentum has come to an end, although I've come to that conclusion probably about a half hour to 45 minutes ago, but it's just starting to sink in because there aren't many electoral votes out there for her left to grab. So it looks like Donald Trump, for good or bad, is likely to become the next president of the United States. But again, we'll find out more from NPR in just a moment to see what they have to say about the situation. Now, let's see here. What was I going to bring up? What was it, the story I wanted? Let's see, where is it? All right, let's back it up a little bit here. And that's not it. That's not it. Okay. Well, some other races. California voters approve recreational marijuana. And so we'll get the details on that story. So just bear with me for just a moment, my friends. And 18 minutes after 11 o'clock on this late Tuesday night, by the way. And still waiting on NPR News to finish downloading. Oh, well, it's going to be a while. For some reason, the bandwidth just got real narrow. Anyway, California voters, as I said, apparently have approved recreational marijuana. Approved a ballot measure today allowing recreational marijuana in the nation's most populous state, handing the legalization movement its biggest victory yet. Voters in 9 states considered proposals to expand legal access to the drug, which is still forbidden by the federal government. California was the first state to approve medical marijuana 2 decades ago. It was among 5 states weighing whether to permit pot for adults for recreational purposes. The other states were Arizona, Maine, Massachusetts, and Nevada, respectively. Florida, one of the 3 states deciding whether to permit marijuana for medical purposes, approved the idea. Montana voted on whether to ease restrictions on an existing medical marijuana law. California's vote, meanwhile, means that recreational cannabis will be legal along the entire West Coast, giving the legalization movement powerful momentum that could spark similar efforts in other states and put pressure on federal authorities to ease long-standing rules that classify marijuana as a dangerously addictive drug with no medical benefits. In general, the proposals for recreational pot would create cannabis similar to alcohol. Consumption would be limited to people 21 and older, forbidden in most public places. Pot would be highly regulated and heavily taxed, and some states would let people grow their own marijuana. State-by-state polls showed that most of the measures, with a good chance of prevailing, but staunch opponents that included law enforcement groups and anti-drug crusaders urged the public to reject any changes. They complained that legalization would endanger children and open the door to recreational use of another huge industry that, like big tobacco, would be devoted to selling Americans an unhealthy drug. The Massachusetts measure, for example, was opposed by Republican Governor Charlie Baker, Boston Mayor Marty Walsh, and the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston, which contributed $850,000 to the No campaign. In Maine, opponents included some major players in the medical marijuana industry who worried about disruptions, to their business model. In Arizona, the issue evoked uncertainty about how legalization might affect the flow of smuggled illegal drugs across the border with Mexico. The proposal sowed deep division among marijuana advocates and farmers. In Northern California's famous Emerald Triangle, region known for cultivating pot for decades, many small growers have longed for legitimacy, but also fear being forced out of business by large corporate farms. They were joined by more traditional voters who opposed legalization on moral grounds. So again, according to national polls, a solid majority of Americans support legalization. Gallup's latest survey gauged support at 60%, up from 14% from when the question was first posed in 1969. Gallup says 13% of U.S. adults currently report using marijuana, nearly double the percentage who reported using pot in 2013. Proposition 64 would also allow people 21 and older to legally possess up to an ounce of weed and grow 6 marijuana plants at home. Varying tax rates would be levied on sales, with the money deposited in the state's marijuana tax fund. So again, the state of California says it's all right to have a little bit of pot, but not too much. What else we got for you on this election night? Let's see. Don't have that story. Let's try over here. What else we got for you? Yeah, that's an opinion piece. Don't care about that right now. Looking for hardcore information. How about this story? This sounds good. And still waiting on the news to finish downloading. Give this computer a little bit of a jump start here. See if I can get it going here. All right. Hit Control J, and nothing happened. Poof. Okay, well, all right. If that's the way you're going to be about it, computer, we'll just wait. We will just wait. All right, let's try this. right, there we go. All right, we'll pause for a little bit, hit resume, and that should jump-start it. All right. Okay, Republicans retain Indiana governorship. Democrats keep West Virginia. Excuse me. Good grief. Republicans and Democrats each retained governorships today in hard-fought battles in Indiana and West Virginia as voters picked chief executives in a dozen states. The governor's contests were part of a battle for state house supremacy that also included nearly 6,000 state legislative elections. Heading into today, Republicans controlled more than two-thirds of the nation's legislative chambers, as well as 31 of the 50 governor's offices. Indiana Lieutenant Governor Eric Holcomb defeated Democrat John Gregg to keep Republican control of the office, being vacated by GOP vice presidential nominee Mike Pence. In West Virginia, billionaire businessman Jim Justice won election to succeed term-limited Democratic Governor Earl Ray Tomblin. In a key legislative battle, Republicans won control of the Kentucky House, the lone remaining Democratic-held chamber in the South, while also defeating Democratic House Speaker Greg Stumbo. And the states in play today include North Carolina. In the nation's high-profile race, Republican Governor Pat McCrory faces a strong challenge from Democratic Attorney General Roy Cooper. The race has become a referendum on North Carolina's rightward shift under McCrory, highlighted by law that limits anti-discrimination protections for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, and directs transgender people to use public restrooms matching the gender on their birth certificates. Cooper's vowed to try to repeal the law as governor. Meanwhile, recent flooding from Hurricane Matthew has also played into the race, as McCrory has been at the public forefront of response and recovery efforts. Right here in Missouri, that still hasn't finished downloading. Good grief, computer. There we go. Here in Missouri, former Navy SEAL officer Eric Greitens, a first-time candidate, is locked in a close contest against Democratic Attorney General Chris Koster. Greitens has capitalized on his military service and his work as founder of the veterans charity known as the Mission Continues. He cast himself as an outsider going up against a career politician. Koster, a former Republican state senator, picked up key endorsements from the National Rifle Association and major agricultural groups, including primary candidates. Missouri governor's campaigns have raised more than $72 million, easily doubling the previous record. The winner will succeed term-limited Democratic Governor Jay Nixon. Over in Indiana, in today's election, let's see what we've got for you. Holcomb's election will continue a 12-year run of Republican governors in Indiana. He's a former state Republican Party chairman who had been appointed to the state's number 2 spot by Pence, and later was nominated as his replacement when Pence dropped his re-election bid in July. Gregg has tried to cast Holcomb as a rubber stamp for Pence, pointing out that Holcomb's support for a religious objections law that Pence signed. Opponents said the law, which was later revised, sanctioned discrimination against same-sex couples by allowing businesses to refuse to serve them. In New Hampshire, the governor's office is open because Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan is trying to oust Republican U.S. Senator Kelly Ahoyt. The race to replace her features 2 members of the governor's executive council, Democrat Colin Van Ostern and Republican Chris Sununu, the son of former Governor John H. Sununu and the brother of former U.S. Senator John E. Sununu. Democrats have controlled the governor's office for 18 of the past 20 years in New Hampshire. In Vermont, Republican Lieutenant Governor Phil Scott faces Democrat Sue Minter in what Republicans view as their best pickup opportunity. Democratic Governor Peter Shumlin is not seeking another 2-year term. Scott is currently the only Republican statewide office holder in a liberal-leaning state, but has tacked to the left by embracing abortion rights and same-sex marriage. Minter is a former transportation secretary for Shumlin. In West Virginia, Justice's victory will continue a 16-year stint of Democratic governors in a state that has otherwise been tilting toward Republicans. Justice cast himself as a political outsider adept at creating jobs. Republican candidate Bill Cole, the state Senate president, has hoped to ride Trump's coattails, but Cole's pledge to revive the coal industry was offset by Justice, himself a coal billionaire. In Montana, Democratic Governor Steve Bullock faces a challenge from Republican Greg Gianforte, a businessman who struck it rich when he sold his cloud-based software firm to Oracle 5 years ago. Gianforte has poured millions of his own money into the race, airing more TV ads than all other statewide executive candidates in the nation, according to an analysis by the Center for Public Integrity of Data from the tracking firm Kantar Media CMAG. Bullock has been heavily aided by the Democratic Governors Association. And a few other states worth mentioning in those races. They include Delaware, where Democratic U.S. Representative John Carney Jr. was elected to succeed term-limited Democratic Governor Jack Markle. And in North Dakota, Republican businessman Doug Burgum won election to replace Republican Governor Jack Dalrymple, or Dalrymple, who did not seek re-election. Republican Governor Gary Herbert won re-election in Utah, and Democratic Governors Kate Brown of Oregon and Jay Inslee of Washington also were expected to turn back challengers. So those are a few of the governor's races up for grabs on this election day. Okay, let's see what else we got for you. Alrighty. Well, CNN is still reporting Trump in the lead at 238 to 209. Of course, we have different numbers from other sources now. Thank you, CNN. I should just switch it over to Fox, but I forgot where it's at on this set. So I guess I'll have to search around for it. Okay, let me close this one out. And I'll go over here and take a look at some other election results for you. I have an update from CBS News here in just a moment. Or was it NPR? It was NPR we're waiting on. And for some reason, it is not downloading like it should be. It should have been downloaded minutes ago. It's only at 34%. What's the deal, computer? Where does it hurt? Okay. Tell Daddy where it hurts, and I'll help you. If not, I'll reformat you, and you can do this all over again. But I don't really want to do that. Okay, I'm going to pause it for a little bit. Hit resume and see if that jump starts it. Okay. Well, that didn't seem to do any good there either. Let me try this. So I'm just going to have to keep talking until I figure out something else here. All right. Well, Trump takes Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina in the battle for the White House. And Hillary Clinton has won Nevada. Let's see here. As I said, Donald Trump captured crucial victories over Hillary Clinton tonight in Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, showing remarkable strength in three of the nation's most fiercely fought battleground states in an unexpectedly tight race for the presidency. Clinton carried Virginia and Colorado, as well as California, the nation's largest prize. With a handful of other states still undecided, neither candidate had cleared the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win the White House. Michigan and Wisconsin, two Midwestern powerhouses that haven't voted for a Republican presidential candidate since the 1980s, took on an unexpected level of importance. Clinton's campaign had largely been taken both for granted, but it made a last-minute push in Michigan in the race's final days. The uncertainty sent Dow Jones futures in Asian markets tumbling, reflecting investor concern over what a Trump presidency might mean for the economy and for world trade. As Clinton's team anxiously waited for the results to roll in, the candidate tweeted to supporters, "Whatever happens tonight, thank you for everything." So that's where we stand at this point in Florida, as well as Ohio and North Carolina. Now I'm going to reread that story. I already read it once. The rest of it hasn't changed all that much. Let's see what else we got here. Well, speaking of the Dow Jones, see if I can get this to load. I guess I'm not going to get NPR News anytime soon, so I'm going to cancel that and try to restart the download. That's maybe a mistake, but we're going to try it anyway. Well, that didn't work. That did not work. Okay, let's try this. Okay, click download. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. Okay, click download and see if that works. You know, it should only have taken 20 seconds to download this, not 20 minutes. 11:33 on a Tuesday night, by the way. I could play some music, but I've gone this far. Might as well keep on going, like Forrest Gump would say. But anyway, the Dow Jones Industrials dived 800 points based on election jitters. Okay? Plunged more than 800 points, and bonds rallied as markets feared Donald Trump could pull off an upset and take the White House, and that looks like it's going to be increasingly likely. Right now, the only upset I have here is with my system. trying to produce a show, and the system is just not responding. I guess a lot of people are downloading the podcast for other things, and let that Hafner guy suffer. He talks enough on there anyway. He doesn't need us. Au contraire, mon frère. Okay, there we go. Maybe we get something from CBS. Let's try that. Okay, so click on save. Wait for the window to load. Waiting for the window to load. Bet you never had anyone sing to you on election coverage before. Now you have. Okay, there we go. Update. And click that. See if that works. Okay. Well, S&P 500 futures fell more than 5% just before midnight Eastern Time. Trade volume in E-mini S&P futures was about 17 times their average daily volume, according to a note from Citi. Investors moved into the safety of bonds this evening, and stock futures cratered as traders questioned whether Democrat Hillary Clinton could still win the race as expected. The Mexican peso fell 10% against the U.S. dollar. Right now, the markets are heading for the hills, but we'll see, said Robert Tipp, chief investment strategist, global bonds and foreign exchange at Prudential Fixed Income. That's a function of fear as much as fact. Tipp said it's not clear whether Trump would be as disruptive as the markets worry he could be, since it's unclear what parts of his platform would be pursued and what type of individuals he would choose for his cabinet. Really, it's going to take a minute to download 400 kilobytes of data. Okay. Anyway, U.S. futures have been volatile as election results began rolling in around 6 o'clock Central Standard Time tonight. Dow futures were up as much as 100 points at one point, and later down more than 700 points. Keith Parker, global equity strategist at Barclays, has studied what might happen if Trump were to win, and he projects the S&P 500 could initially move to around the 2,000 mark if the Republican businessman prevails. The S&P 500 ended today's session higher, up 8 at 2139, as markets speculated that Clinton was in the lead. Trump was the projected winner in some important battleground states, including Florida and North Carolina, but others remain too close to call. While the winner is yet to be determined, Trump's showing was much stronger than expected. In Asia, the Nikkei was down more than 4%, erasing a more than 1% gain on the day. The Mexican peso, which has been a proxy for Trump, was down sharply against the dollar after rallying during the U.S. trading day. Trump has said he would build a wall along along Mexico's northern border and break trade deals with the country. The U.S. dollar also gave up early gains against the yen and Swiss franc. While voting just finished in the western U.S., the markets reacted as if Trump was heading to victory after trading higher for 2 days on optimism that Clinton could win. Wall Street has favored a Clinton win because of some of Trump's policies, such as his positions on trade. So again, market very nervous in the light of the possibility that Donald Trump will become the next president of the United States. Let's see what else I got for you. How about the latest on the congressional races? Yay! I have CBS News. Still don't know what happened to NPR, but I tell you what, I'll go ahead and talk about this other story. Try to stretch this out for as long as I can, because it could be another hour before I have any fresh news. So, well, since the momentum is going, might as well go with it, right? Okay, there we are. It's only a minute podcast. Oh, man. The latest on Campbell secures a spot in Louisiana runoff. The latest on congressional races on Election Day. It seems that Foster Campbell has secured a spot in the runoff election for Louisiana's Senate seat. He's vying to succeed incumbent Republican David Vitter. The Public Services Commissioner will face Republican State Treasurer John Kennedy in the December runoff. Meanwhile, Republican State Treasurer John Kennedy advanced into a December runoff election for Louisiana Senate seat being vacated by incumbent David Vitter. Yada. What else we got for you? Republican Senator Ron Johnson has again defeated Democrat Russ Feingold in a rematch of Wisconsin's 2010 Senate race. This time, Johnson was the incumbent and Feingold a former senator, the challenger in a race that could determine which party controls the Senate. Johnson argued that Feingold did not deserve to be sent back to the nation's capital. Feingold said Johnson has not led on the issues Wisconsin voters care about and should not be given a second term. The race grew personal in the waning weeks, with Johnson calling Feingold a liar and a phony. Feingold, who is counting on high Democratic turnout for the presidential race, made his pitch to middle and working class voters, saying they would have no chance with Johnson in office. In Wyoming, Republican Liz Cheney has won her father's old House seat. She's the eldest daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney. The 50-year-old Cheney succeeds Cynthia Loomis, who decided not to seek re-election to Wyoming's lone seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Anyway, those are some of the congressional races going on across the country for this Tuesday that were up for grabs. Okay. Alrighty. What do you say we get a news update from CBS Radio, and I'll try NPR here once again on this late Tuesday night. Thanks for staying tuned to this continuous coverage of Election Night 2016. We're now 20 minutes away from midnight, Central Standard Time.
CBS News Special Report, Election 2016.
In the battleground state, CBS News now projecting Donald Trump is the winner in Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. Hillary Clinton projected to win in Virginia and in Colorado. CBS's Nancy Cortez says Trump's strong showing has surprised many pundits.
The fact that North Carolina and Ohio now appear to have ended up in the Trump camp is a bitter disappointment for the Clinton campaign. They literally spent tens of millions more dollars in those states than Donald Trump did.
Trump now has a realistic path to victory. CBS's Major Garrett talked to former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort.
Ryan Priebus, the Republican National Committee chairman and a Wisconsin Republican of long standing, has told Manafort that he expects Donald Trump will carry the state of Wisconsin.
Okay.
And Iowa Governor Terry Branstad has told Manafort he expects Trump would carry Iowa as well, and they're very encouraged about what they're seeing in Michigan.
CBS News Special Report, I'm Jim Chenevey.
Well, that was a quick minute, wasn't it? Well, CNN now has Trump leading at 238 electoral votes compared to Hillary Clinton at 215. Let's see if I can find more accurate numbers for you on this Tuesday night. As a matter of fact, Hillary Clinton is projected to win the state of Nevada in terms of the Electoral College election results. And wait for this thing to refresh. And let's see if I've got NPR News. Okay, well, it's attempting to download it. So I guess we're just going to have to figure out a way to stall for a half hour here, or maybe pause the podcast and go to something else. But I don't really want to do that either. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. I'm going to try this. BBC News. Go there. All right. And taking a look at the latest in election results as the computer gets the latest data. There we go. There's the map I was looking for earlier. Thank you, CNN.com, if that is indeed your real name. Let's go over the states that are supporting Trump. They include Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, South Dakota, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio, Nebraska, Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, Kansas, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and Texas. Again, those are all the states that are supporting Donald Trump. Now, the states that have leaned toward and are supporting Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College, they include Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, the District of Columbia, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, along with Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Now, we're still waiting on election results from Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arizona, Utah, and Alaska. Okay? Now, according to this survey, according to this map, this is on CNN.com/election/results, they have Trump at 238 electoral votes right now, compared to Clinton at 215. Now, I want to pull up a calculator here real quick. And let's see here. Okay, let's pull up the old iPod here. And just give me a moment as we... At this point, it looks like the Electoral College update, well, that was 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago. No, that's outdated. Never mind that. Disregard what I just said there. Okay. Really, computer? You're going to be obstinate now? Okay. All right, now, calculate. Yes, I trust the computer. You ask me that every time you're plugged into the silly thing. All right. Calculator. What did I do with the calculator? Yeah, all right. You know, I programmed this thing. You think I can remember where I put everything, but no. I don't remember where I put everything. All right, that's not it. I know this thing has a calculator. Every computer has a calculator of some sort. How else could it run computations? Okay, that's not it. That's not it. Okay, which one is it? Okay, let's try that again. Maybe I put it in there. I know I did. That's calendar. Okay, let's see. Oh, there it is. I was looking. Wrong color button. Okay. I was thinking out loud. Aren't you glad you tuned in for this? Sure, you could watch the professional do election coverage, but... Okay. Now, let's see. We have Arizona, 11 electoral votes there. Utah has 6. Alaska has 3. And Minnesota has 10. Wisconsin has 10. Michigan has 16. Pennsylvania has 20. And Maine and New Hampshire, put them together, they have 4 apiece. So 84 electoral votes are up for grabs. All right. So I'm going to put that 84. Remember 84, okay? Now, Donald Trump needs... Hold on. Just needs 32 electoral votes, whereas Hillary Clinton needs 55 in order to win. So, 84 electoral votes are still up for grabs according to this map, if the data is correct. I don't see a timestamp on here. But right now, it looks like... let's see, what about Utah? Utah is leaning towards Trump. Arizona is leaning towards Trump. And Alaska. I don't think they've called in yet. Don't see anything on Alaska. What about Minnesota? Is Minnesota down here? Nope. Michigan. We already got Michigan, didn't we? Oh, Michigan. Michigan is leaning towards Trump. Pennsylvania is barely leaning towards Trump. New Hampshire is probably going towards Clinton. I could be wrong on that. Let's see. According to this, nope, just leaning towards Trump, just barely by like almost 1,000 votes. And then Maine, it's leaning towards Clinton. So at this point, it looks like Donald Trump will get the necessary votes needed to win the electoral majority that he needs to become president. But again, 238 with Trump and 215 with Clinton. And let's see here. I only have about a quarter of that podcast downloaded. Really, computer? Really? Really, Peterson? You're going to make me wait that much longer. Okay. Well, let's see what else we got here. I tell you, this... trying to figure out what to say, what to do on this show is getting a little bit tedious here right now. Okay, I'm going to close those tabs. All right. GOP battles to limit losses and control House for 2 more years. And that's going to be the next story. Republicans were on track to secure 2 more years of House control today as the GOP lawmaker retained a heavily Hispanic district in Florida. The Democrats hoped Donald Trump's divisive comments would make their own. Okay? This is Paul Ryan, by the way. That's who I'm talking about. House Speaker Paul Ryan of Wisconsin speaking during a news conference. Well, even so, Republicans faced an erosion of their historic majority in the chamber that could leave hardline conservatives with added clout to vex party leaders. With Trump rousing opposition in many suburban and ethnically diverse districts, Democrats were hoping to gain a dozen GOP-held seats in states including New Jersey, Virginia, Illinois, Florida, Nevada, and California. But both sides anticipated that Democrats will fall short of the 30-seat pickup they needed to take command of the House for the first time in 6 years. Democrats have gained that many seats in just 5 of the 35 elections since World War II, including only once, 2006, since the 1970s. But in Florida, freshman GOP Representative Carlos Curbelo won a race that showed the GOP presidential candidate's damage to Republicans would be more limited than Democrats hoped. With around 7 in 10 of the Miami area district's voters Hispanic, the race became one of the country's most expensive, with a price tag exceeding $18 million, but Curbelo held on nonetheless. Okay? Democrats were trailing in targeted races in Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, and Virginia that would be crucial to putting a dent in the GOP's control of the House. Florida, where court-ordered redistricting created a bunch of competitive races, was also the site of Election Day's first 2 defeated incumbents, both Republicans. Political neophyte 38-year-old Stephanie Murphy ousted 12-term veteran Representative John Mica, age 73, in the Orlando area, while GOP Representative David Jolly lost his St. Petersburg seat to Democrat Charlie Crist, once the state's GOP governor. Once prized pelt for Democrats would be 8-term Representative Darrell Issa, Republican from California, who dogged President Barack Obama with probes in the 2012 killings of 4 Americans in Benghazi, Libya, and IRS mistreatment of conservative groups. Another would be Representative Scott Garrett, Republican from New Jersey, from New York City's suburbs, who's under fire for reports that he objected to contributing money for gay GOP congressional candidates. House Speaker Paul Ryan, Republican from Wisconsin, was touting his Better Way agenda on revamping the tax code and welfare programs and dismantling Obama's health care law for next year. In a final fundraising email, he called it our responsibility as conservatives to maintain GOP House control. Trump's impact on House races seemed spotty, and in some districts was counterbalanced by GOP apathy to Hillary Clinton, Trump's Democratic rival for president. Republicans were aiming for Democratic-held seats north of Miami and in northern Minnesota and in Omaha, Nebraska, and were strongly defending others that once seemed vulnerable in New York, Iowa, and Wisconsin, respectively. The GOP's current 247-188 margin, which includes 3 vacancies, is a high watermark for House Republicans since the 270 members they had in 1931. Only several dozen of the chamber's seats were considered competitive. Both party candidates and outside groups spent nearly $1.1 billion combined on House campaigns, shy of the $1.2 billion record in 2012, according to the Center for Responsive Politics, a nonpartisan research group. Republicans had only a slight financial edge. Even with the Ryan-led House GOP holding a formidable advantage, work has stalled on spending bills after hitting objections from conservatives, including the roughly 40 members of the Hard Right Freedom Caucus, with moderate GOP lawmakers likely among Tuesday's election losers. Dissident Republicans' leverage will likely grow next year. That suggests tougher problems ahead for GOP leaders, with conservative objections likely over a fresh round of budget legislation, plus the need to renew the government's borrowing authority or face an economy join federal default. A thinner Republican majority could also strengthen conservatives demanding the impeachment of a newly elected President Clinton. Ryan has yet to address that issue directly. Even Ryan, who's said he wants to be Speaker in the new Congress, is not immune to ire from the Freedom Caucus and other Republicans upset over his refusal to campaign for Trump. If the GOP margin is whittled significantly, just a handful of disgruntled conservatives could block Ryan from the 218 votes that he'd need to retain his post. That could be an embarrassing setback for the GOP's 2012 vice presidential candidate, who may harbor future White House aspirations, and some Republicans say it might persuade the 46-year-old Ryan to leave Congress. So there we go there. All right. Well, CNN is still maintaining the 238-215 margin. I'll tell you what, for funsies, I haven't checked Fox News all night long, surprisingly enough. So let's see if they've got anything different. And also check to see if my news is downloaded. Looks like which NPR finally did, if I got the information correct. Okay. Click on details. In general, 14 minutes ago. Yep, that looks like that's it. So we'll try that. All right. Okay. Let's switch over to Fox News for a little bit. We're at 6 minutes away from 12 o'clock midnight, by the way, here in the Central Standard Time Zone. And what do we got here? Wisconsin still leaning towards Trump by just a little over 90,000 votes. Amazing. Now, this is part of the political process I really like to follow. These close races. You know, other people get off on sports, I get off on election results. Okay, their on-screen says that Trump is leading 238 on their website. CNN, or Bing rather, is showing 244 to 209. So somewhere Trump picked up another 6 electoral votes. And anyway, let's try refreshing this screen and see if we get anything there. Of course not. Of course that's not going to load. Well, I want to throw it over to NPR for a little bit, and then we'll have more election results for you on this late Tuesday night heading into Wednesday morning on this special evening edition of Haff in the Morning.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from iShares, because the best preparation for tomorrow is building for your future today. iShares by BlackRock. Inspired to build.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Shay Stevens. The polls have now closed in most states, and the race to the White House has turned out to be a bigger cliffhanger than expected. Republican Donald Trump is doing much better in swing states than some polls had suggested. He's won in Utah, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio, with a few battleground states yet to be decided. NPR political editor Domenico Montanaro is here in the studio. What are your thoughts on how the race is playing out so far?
Well, certainly surprising that Donald Trump would have this kind of strength. It's certainly surprising that Donald Trump would have this kind of strength. There was thought to be a blue wall for Hillary Clinton in the upper Midwest, and that has turned out not to be the case whatsoever. Donald Trump is leading in Wisconsin, leading in Michigan, he's leading in New Hampshire, and if all of that were to go that way, Donald Trump would be the next president of the United States. If Hillary Clinton were to lose Wisconsin and hang on in Michigan, hang on in New Hampshire, there's a very, very, very narrow path. But boy, when we started this night, we were talking about all of the paths she had and what a narrow path Donald Trump had, and that is not the case right now.
Are there any big surprises so far?
Well, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, basically everywhere that Donald Trump had to win, he did win. And the fact that he has been able to break through Hillary Clinton's, thought to be wall of states leaning in her direction. We're talking about states that have gone Democratic in each of the last 6 elections, that Donald Trump, with his populist message, has sort of created this trade winds, so to speak, into the Midwest and upper Midwest, appealing to blue-collar whites with a populist, protectionist message.
All right, NPR political editor Domenico Montanaro. Meanwhile, Democrats have gained at least 1 seat in the U.S. Senate. They need to win 4 if Hillary Clinton wins, and 5 if Donald Trump wins. NPR's Nina Totenberg is in the studio now with more on these races.
So while the presidency hangs by a thread, the Senate may be slipping away from Democrats. Republicans have held on to the Senate seat in Wisconsin, a seat that Republicans had all but written off at one point, and that outside conservative groups poured millions of dollars into in the final weeks of the campaign to pull out a victory. In North Carolina, Republican Senator Richard Burr has also held on to his seat, another Democratic opportunity down the drain. What you learn over time is that these races are not in isolation. The Democrats have picked up only one seat so far tonight in Illinois. Chances for taking control of the Senate are down to just 4 races in Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Missouri, and Nevada. And the head of the ticket, the Democratic ticket, is trailing or has lost in 2 of those. So if Trump were to win, the Democrats are in the Senate minority. The GOP would control the presidency, the Congress, House and Senate, and would be able to easily confirm President Trump's Supreme Court nominees. And if Clinton were to win, she could well face a Republican House and Senate.
This is NPR. U.S. futures have plunged and bonds are rallying as the general election results continue to trickle in. Dow futures have plunged more than 600 points, or 3%. As NPR's John Itzdy explains, investor jitters about the election are especially heightened, not just in the U.S.
The financial markets are very nervous. They're nervous about a Donald Trump presidency because they are uncertain about his policies regarding the economy and financial system. They're much more comfortable with Hillary Clinton. They believe she would have policies that would sort of continue what Barack Obama has done, and so she's a known quantity in that respect.
NPR's John Itzdy reporting on Asian market shares are also lower, down 4% in Tokyo, down nearly 3% in Hong Kong. The Mexican peso, seen as a proxy for Donald Trump's chances of winning, has fallen 10% against the dollar. In a closely watched local race, Phoenix area lawmaker Joe Arpaio has lost his bid for a 7th term in office. The 84-year-old Maricopa County sheriff has been embroiled in controversy over his department's immigration patrols targeting Latinos. He's currently facing trial for defying a court order in a racial profiling case. Marijuana is gaining popularity. California voters have approved a ballot measure to legalize recreational marijuana. Florida voters have approved marijuana for medicinal purposes. If yes votes prevail across the board on other states, more than 23% of the U.S. population will live in states where it's legal. This is N.
Okay, that was a little freaky. I had an alarm clock go off. Thought I had that stupid thing fixed. Welcome back to Haff in the Morning. Special evening edition, late night edition now, as it's straight up 12 o'clock midnight, Wednesday morning, and still waiting on Michigan, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Still too close to call, according to various news outlets, including CNN, which I've been relying on predominantly throughout the night for on-screen coverage anyway. Meanwhile, Democrats are now basically extinct in the South. Control over overall state legislative action seems to support that. As a matter of fact, as of last night, as of Tuesday night, consider the political realignment of the South from blue to red complete. Kentucky Democrats have just lost control of the state house they had held on for nearly a century. A century. And with it, the party's last southern legislative chamber. The development was a year in the making. Democrats' control of the chamber has been hanging on by a thread as Republicans swept most other statewide offices in 2015 elections. The GOP wave was led by Governor Matt Bevin, a businessman whose outside appeal and flair had been likened to Donald Trump and who came from behind to become only the second Republican to lead the state in 4 decades. Speaking of Trump, the GOP nominee won Kentucky Tuesday with more than 60% of the vote. Well, after Kentucky Democrats lost the governor's mansion and several statewide offices, they nearly lost the state house due to party defections. 2 Democratic state representatives switched political parties, claiming they could no longer support President Obama and his policies. And 2 more Democratic state representatives resigned to accept appointments by Kentucky's new Republican Governor Bevin. Suddenly, 4 seats in the chamber were open, and 4 just happened to be the magic number Republicans needed to take control of it. Democrats held control at 50 to 46, but Democrats held off Republicans in a special election in March for those 4 vacancies, winning 3 of the 4. They even added a seat to the majority. And then they lost it in an election 8 months later. In one of the biggest blows of the night for Kentucky Democrats, their House Speaker, Greg Stumbo, lost to his Republican challenger, Larry Brown. But Republicans bested Democrats in eastern Kentucky state House races as well. Now, Kentucky Republicans control the executive and legislative branches of government in the state, which means they have a clear path now to pass a range of conservative bills that have been stopped by the Democratic State House, such as restrictions on abortions, limits on transgender individuals, use of public restrooms, and limiting the power of unions. As recently as 6 years ago, in 2010, Democrats held a 65-35 advantage in the state House. But even though Bill Clinton won the state twice, Republican Mitt Romney won the state in 2012 in the presidential election that year, and GOP candidates triumphed in the 2014 Senate election and the 2015 gubernatorial race, often by wide margins. University of Louisville political science professor Jasmine Ferrier told The Fix in March that she thinks all this should be a wake-up call for the Democratic Party, which has struggled to bridge the urban-rural divide in heavily rural states like Kentucky. It hasn't really found a way to reach across the cultural divides that separate former Southern Democrats with today's Northern ones. It also didn't help that Democrats, during the Obama years, that Republicans absolutely dominated state politics. By the end, they controlled some of their largest majorities of governors' mansions, state legislative chambers, 69 of 99, and Congress since the Great Depression. Though that could change now, as Democrats are expected to pick up a few seats, but not in Kentucky. It is no longer a Democratic bulwark in a conservative South. It is the conservative South, a state now better described as one of the last to realign with the country's new political reality that Democrats dominate the North and Republicans rule the South. All right. Well, CNN is still maintaining the 238-215 gap in the Electoral College, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any break in the stalemate anytime soon. Let's see if I can find any other information here in regards to the latest election results. I tell you, it's been an interesting race, and the results are really surprising me because I would have even bet money this time yesterday, that Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in. But I underestimated Trump, and the fact that he, good or bad, he got support out there, the support he needed to pull this race off. So I'll commend you for that, sir. I just hope that as president you do some good things. But the way you've behaved to this date, I have my doubts. Well, according to MSN.com, Donald Trump is leading with 244 electoral votes compared to Hillary Clinton's 255. So there are 6 electoral votes that I cannot account for as of yet. But apparently Utah has gone to Donald Trump, which is no surprise. And as a matter of fact, looks like Hillary Clinton didn't even come in second place in the state of Utah with just 36.45% of precincts reporting. Yeah, Trump came in with 51% of the vote. Evan McMullen came in at nearly 24%, and nothing yet on concern in regards to Hillary Clinton in the state of Utah. Donald Trump is still leading in Arizona, where he's likely to pick up another 11 electoral votes. So according to CNN, that would bring him up to 249, or on MSN, that would bring him up to 255. And then in Pennsylvania, no, I didn't want Illinois. Let's go back out. Okay, come on, computer. Anyway. All right, let's see here. Where's my map? There. Oh, come on. Good grief, computer. I don't want a state. I want the map that you had. Oh, this is infuriating. High-speed internet. Yeah, right. Okay, let's try this. Okay, switch back to news. Okay, is that going to work? Is that going to put the map back the way it was, or is it going to go back to Illinois? Should go back to the map. Okay, there we go. Going back out to the map, And the state of Wisconsin, looks like Donald Trump will get Wisconsin, although it's a closer margin for Hillary Clinton. Now, if Trump gets that, which he probably will, that'll be another 10 electoral votes, so that'll give him 21 electoral votes right there. And if he gets Michigan, which is leaning towards Donald Trump, that'll give him another 16 votes. And then in Pennsylvania, that'll give him another 20 votes. So it looks like Donald Trump is definitely going to be the winner. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that Donald Trump is set to be the next president of the United States of America. And for good or bad, that's where we stand on this Wednesday morning, now coming upon 9 minutes after 12 o'clock. So I'm going to declare Donald Trump the winner, even though right now the data doesn't confirm it. It definitely supports my theory. So it looks like Donald Trump is the projected winner, the president-elect of the United States of America. So congratulations, Donald Trump. You are set to become the 45th president of the United States of America. Okay. Let's see here. Could go on ahead and do a show, but but I don't think I'll have very much of my material yet. All right. Well, with that being said, I think I want to wrap up this broadcast because it may be a while before we get confirmation. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States. But I tell you what, I'm going to hold on for just a little bit longer before I make it totally official and signing off, okay? I mean, I'd hate to have a upset coming here. Of course, I don't have a boss to answer to other than me, so no big deal there on this broadcast. Okay, well, let's see. What do you say we take care of some news? See if we got anything new yet in this regard. All right. Got a new feed from Fox Radio, so I want to put that in there. Click save, override, and download. Yeah, there, that wasn't... There, that downloaded as fast as it should have. None of this... you sure you want me to download it? I mean, I could download it for you, but it'll take a while.
It's done, boss. It's all done now, boss. Don't you worry now, boss.
Okay, 10 minutes after 12 o'clock, it's time for another update from Fox Radio News. On this edition, special edition of Haff in the Morning.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Tom Graham. It's still up in the air, but the Trump campaign feeling confident.
We know we're going to win tonight, but come what may, he built a movement, and people feel like they're truly part of it.
Campaign manager Kellyanne Conway there. Fox News projecting Donald Trump now has 254 of 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House keys. Fox's Grenal Scott joins us live from Trump headquarters in New York.
And here, Tom, Donald Trump appears to be on the precipice of the White House with that Fox News projected electoral count of 254 electoral votes. Many people who are here at the Hilton Midtown are cautiously optimistic, but they have this air that something is going to happen this evening. We hear Donald Trump is on his way to this place, and even if he has not been here, yet, and they are expecting some kind of celebration tonight. Whether it will come sooner or later, we'll have to wait and see, Tom.
Well, Gerdal, it's not over yet. Last hour, Fox News projecting a Hillary Clinton win in the swing state of Nevada, as her supporters also anxiously awaiting results at Clinton headquarters in Manhattan, where Fox's Tanya J. Powers joins us live.
Well, some supporters have already called it a night. Others have been seen wiping tears away when races were called for Donald Trump. But many are determined to stay to the end no matter what the outcome. That's the culmination of about a year and a half of work for these supporters, the volunteers, and, of course, the candidates. A constant loop of Hillary support videos playing on large screens when the results of the races aren't being posted, and everyone's waiting and just wondering how much longer it'll take to get an answer of who is the new president.
Well, Tanya, exit polling shows many Americans holding their nose in voting Tuesday.
The lesser than two evil.
Yes. That voter, a Trump supporter in Virginia, just 4 out of 10 voters strongly favoring their candidate, according to AP polling. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
So we've got our neighbor Paul coming over tonight for a barbecue, which is why I prepared a delicious lemon rosemary steak marinade from my special collection of old family recipes. To make sure the steaks are extra, extra, extra tender, I left them marinating out on the counter overnight, just like Nana used to.
Maria may mean well, but without food safety, it never ends well. Always thaw or marinate foods in the refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, or you could make your friends and family really sick. Maria's neighbor Paul didn't think twice about the steak he ate until he was presenting his company's financial forecast to the board. That's when a sudden bout of food poisoning made it explicitly clear that profits weren't the only thing on the rise. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov. You'll learn the right steps as Maria does everything wrong. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Down ballot races, several Republican senators able to fend off challenges. Senator Ron Johnson holding on to his seat in Wisconsin.
My message has been pretty consistent. I believe America has given us a chance, an opportunity to put this nation on the right path. It's exactly what I intend to do.
Fox News projected a Johnson win over challenger Russ Feingold, and he was not alone. Republican Senator Rob Portman of Ohio and North Carolina Senator Richard Burr winning tight challenges there. Democrats getting a silver lining in Tammy Duckworth. She defeats Illinois incumbent Mark Kirk.
As we celebrate this amazing and hard-earned victory, let's keep in our sights and our hearts those who aren't celebrating tonight.
Going into election night, Republicans holding a slight majority in the Senate with 54 seats. Meantime, the House, Fox News projecting Republicans will maintain control. Fox's Chad Pergram joins us live from Capitol Hill.
Analysts expected Republicans to lose seats, perhaps as many as 20 or more in the House. Democrats needed 30 seats to reclaim the House, but so far, Democrats have only picked up a net of 3 seats nationwide. Notably, Democrat Stephanie Murphy defeated veteran GOP Florida Congressman John Mica. Democrat Josh Gottheimer unseated New Jersey Republican Scott Garrett. But the GOP responded by holding swing seats in Iowa and Minnesota. The question now is what happens with House Speaker Paul Ryan, Tom.
Well, Chad, more states are going green. Nevada becoming the latest to legalize recreational marijuana. That one was on the ballot. And recapping our top story, race to the White House, Donald Trump is inching closer to the 270 electoral votes needed to win. So far, he has 254 to Hillary Clinton's 215. Meantime, markets not acting kindly to the news. Stock futures way off this hour. The Dow off 719 points. Meantime, the Nikkei, Asian markets off nearly 5%. I'm Tom Graham, Fox News Radio.
Well, CNN is now reporting 244 electoral votes for Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton locked in at 215. So the map is starting to match other sources that I've checked so far. And in the races nationwide, everything leaning toward the Republican side, with the Republicans having a narrow majority in the Senate, having a strong majority in the House, and a significant majority in governorships across the continental U.S. 32 out of 14 going back to Republicans. Okay? Now, let's see here. There is still a possibility, although mathematically I don't see how it's going to happen now. Maybe a couple of hours ago it might have been possible, 3 hours ago. What happens if the Electoral College is tied? You know, the bitter months-long presidential contest between Clinton and Trump has finally come to a close, and unless the campaign has one final surprise in store, Electoral College tie. Now, the states have never before yielded a tie in the Electoral College, but with 538 votes in the Electoral College, one for all 435 members of the House and one each for the 100 senators, and 3 awarded to Washington, D.C., a 269-269 split is legally possible in the vote. Now, in Mr. Trump's case, I need some music, by the way. Thank you, computer. In Mr. Trump's case, his chances of amassing 269 votes would require an assembly of states that Mrs. Clinton is favored to win. If he takes every state Mitt Romney won in 2012, plus Florida, Iowa, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Ohio, he gets 269. The website 270 to win describes 97 different possible tie-making permutations given this year's battleground map. In the event of this extremely unlikely outcome, here's how the process of picking the next president would unfold. When does the Electoral College meet? Well, no matter The outcome of the popular vote today, the Electoral College is set to meet on December 19th. It is the second Wednesday in December, as laid out in the 12th Amendment to the Constitution. Electors from each state are expected to vote then for the presidential candidate who won the popular vote in their states. The electors don't meet in person. They just mail in their ballots. Now, are electors required to vote for the candidate who wins their state's popular vote? In about half of the states, electors are legally free to vote how they choose, even contravening the popular vote in their states. If the Electoral College appears deadlocked at a 269-269 split on election night, a single elector could change his or her vote and award the election either way. Nevertheless, what happens in the Electoral College if the Electoral College meets and yields a tie? If neither presidential candidate wins an outright majority in the Electoral College, the presidential election is sent to the House of Representatives. In this scenario, each state's delegation gets one vote towards the presidential election, regardless of how many representatives it sends to the House, for a total of 50 votes. As to Washington, D.C., the Constitution is ambiguous. The District of Columbia is not a state, but the 23rd Amendment to the Constitution grants it 3 Electoral College votes and says they shall be considered for the purpose of the election of President and Vice President to be electors appointed by a state. Now, each state's delegation will hold its own ballot and cast its presidential vote for the winner. States with an even number of representatives in which the vote is split evenly are disqualified. A presidential nominee must win votes from at least 26 states, an outright majority, to be named president. Now, the House is controlled by Republicans. Does that mean it would elect Mr. Trump? Well, according to the 12th Amendment, Congress cannot formally count the Electoral College votes until January 6th. But a new Congress will have been seated by January 3rd. If Republicans maintain control of the chamber in today's election, which is expected to happen, the odds will certainly be in Mr. Trump's favor. Now, what happens if the House can't reach a clear majority? Then who is elected president? Well, in this scenario, the person elected vice president would assume the presidency under the line of succession set forth in the 1947 law. When the Constitution grants presidential picking authority to the House, the vice president is chosen by the Senate, with each senator given a single vote. A candidate must gain 51 votes to be named the vice president. If no president is named by the date of the inauguration, the vice president is automatically elevated. And finally, what if the Senate has a 50-50 partisan split? Well, the Senate already has an institutional tiebreaker, the sitting vice president. Tuesday's election could easily yield a 50-50 split between the two parties, so no matter who's elected president, that chamber will be seated during the final few weeks of Barack Obama's presidency, making Joe Biden the tiebreaker in the election. So there you have it, my friends. Conceivably, it could happen, but it's highly unlikely, especially now, considering that Donald Trump has gained so much momentum in today's election. I totally underestimated his prowess in this process. But, that's the beauty of American politics. Even an underdog with as much money as he has could still surprise everyone. All right, let's see. Time for some more news. And this time we'll check in with NPR. Assuming I have nothing else to report here at the moment. So we'll do that right now on this edition of Haff in the Morning.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Cyber Policy, helping protect small businesses against cyber attacks with the first end-to-end solution that combines cyber planning, security, and insurance customized for small business. Visit cyberpolicy.com for a custom quote in just 4 minutes.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Shay Stevens. The votes are still trickling in, and the results are so far still too close to call, but nonetheless stunning. Donald Trump has done much better in key battleground states than all of the political pundits and apparently either campaign expected. NPR's Ron Elving is here to explain what's going on and why the results are so drastically different than what we've been hearing.
The national popular vote total looks like it separates the two candidates by about 1 percentage point, which would certainly be among our closest presidential elections ever. But the distribution of Donald Trump's vote is giving him a distinct advantage in terms of the Electoral College. At this point, if Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania do not all fall Hillary Clinton's way, and she is trailing in all three, if they don't all turn around and fall her way, she will fall short of her goal of 270 electoral votes, whatever happens in New Hampshire.
Why do you think that the results are turning out differently than what some of the exit polls have been saying?
The exit polls are probably suffering a little bit from the same affliction that has invalidated a lot of the pre-polling, the regular polls we've been reading for the last year and a half, none of which, or virtually none of which, foresaw the outcome that we're seeing tonight. Most of the major national polls that people pay the most attention to, trust the most, had Hillary Clinton winning nationally by about 4 points and getting something close to 300 electoral votes, neither of which has turned out to be the case.
NPR Ron Elving, thank you. A major issue for many voters in this election is who will get to fill the vacancy on the U.S. Supreme Court. NPR's Nina Totenberg is also here in the studio. What would Donald Trump presidency mean for the nation's highest court, Nina?
Well, if Donald Trump is elected president, we really don't know how he'll choose a Supreme Court nominee. He's put out 2 lists of potential nominees, but there's no guarantee he'll stick to those. Indeed, some of the most respected conservative judges and lawyers in the country are not on Trump's list. But even if Democrats were to pull off a late hat trick in the remaining Senate races, it would appear that if Trump is elected president, Republicans will have the Senate majority needed to confirm his choice or choices. And the Republican tactic of refusing to consider President Obama's nominee for 9 months will have paid off, meaning don't be surprised if at some point in the future a Democratic majority tries to do the same thing to a Republican president, because the precedent has been set. Whatever else we can say tonight, we should say again that this presidential election is likely to have a dramatic effect on the direction of the Supreme Court for generations to come.
Okay, that's NPR's Nina Totenberg reporting. You're listening to NPR News. Stocks around the world are plummeting in value in reaction to Donald Trump's surprising lead in the general election. As NPR's Chris Arnold reports, U.S. stock futures are down around 4%. Dow futures have fallen more than 700 points.
Hillary Clinton is a known quantity, a career politician. Donald Trump, by contrast, is much more of a wild card. His positions have shifted during his campaign. He has at times spooked economists and investors alike, such as when he made confusing comments suggesting that the U.S. might not repay its debts in full to the holders of U.S. Treasury bonds. One study by economists recently predicted that U.S. stocks would be 12% lower if Trump won the election as opposed to Clinton. And as the odds of a Trump presidency have risen as votes continue to be tallied, stock prices around the world are falling sharply. Chris Arnold, NPR News.
On Asian market, shares are down nearly 1,000 points on Tokyo's benchmark Nikkei index and minus 840 in Hong Kong. China's state media outlets are characterizing the U.S. election as a democracy in crisis. The state-run Xinhua news agency says the campaign has shown that the majority of Americans are rebelling against the nation's political class and financial elites. In a race featuring 2 Democrats, California Attorney General Kamala Harris has won the open Senate seat to replace retiring Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer. Other high-profile Senate winners include John McCain in Arizona and Marco Rubio in Florida. In Illinois, Congressman Tammy Duckworth has unseated first-term Senator Mark Kirk. I'm Shay Stevens, NPR News in Washington.
And I'm Joe Hafner on this very late-night edition of Haff in the Morning, now at 12:27 on a Wednesday morning, the day after the November primary election. And CNN still projecting Donald Trump to be the winner of the presidency for the 45th term. Trump now leading 244 electoral votes compared to Hillary Clinton's 215 electoral votes. And again, it looks like there's just no way that Hillary Clinton is going to come out of this now. So it's going to be an interesting 4 years, to say the least. So, but again, no one has outwardly come out and declare Trump the winner, although from all accounts, it looks like he is definitely going to be the next president of the United States of America. All right, let's see here. Trump won the crucial states of Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, again leading 244 to 215, and still waiting on Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, along with Alaska. And again, there's not enough electoral votes there to swing it back into Clinton's favor, unless somehow, some way, this thing gets tied. And even then, I don't see that happening, because the odds of getting to 269 are highly, highly unlikely. Okay. Well, I think I've pretty well exhausted the resources here. I'll tell you what, I'll check in with CNN, or check that with CBS for just a moment. They'll have more of Half in the Morning, special election edition, in just a moment. Okay, CBS. Which one are you? There we go.
CBS News Special Report, Election 2016.
A realistic path to victory for Donald Trump, with polls closed in all states but Alaska and projected victories in 5 of the toss-up states: Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, and Iowa. Trump has surprised the pollsters and is projected to have 244 electoral votes compared to 209 for Hillary Clinton. CBS News Director of Politics, John Dickerson.
Traditionally, when the approval rating of the president is above 50%, it helps the incumbent party. President Obama's approval rating is at 51.6, I think, is the average. Yeah. That's not helping. It particularly isn't helping in Michigan, where the African-American vote is not turning out.
And Trump did it without some core support in the Republican Party. Correspondent Major Garrett.
George W. Bush didn't vote for him. George H.W. Bush, we are told, did not vote for him. This estrangement that Trump had from the Republican establishment, to many, was thought to be a weakness. He always believed it was a core strength.
CBS News Special Report, I'm Jim Chenevey.
Oh, that was fast. Well, let's see. Now CNN's talking about Pennsylvania and the 2012 presidential race a little bit. But again, looks like Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States of America. And I think I'm going to wrap up this broadcast. Again, thank you for tuning in to the special edition of Half in the Morning. I'll be back on tomorrow morning, hopefully at 10 o'clock with a regular episode as we continue to talk about today's election and go from there, okay? Remember, drop me an email if you wish at halfinthemorning@gmail.com. That's HAFFinthemorning@gmail.com. And also be sure to check out my website, tinyurl.com/HafterMedia. tinyurl.com/HafterMedia. And with that being said, in the immortal words of the great Jack Larkin, my time is up. Thank you for yours.